Very
okay.
true.
This is going to go into the equity conversation once again.
Yeah.
And not for the final time, I don't think, this year, but we are at the peak of equity. We are at $32 trillion in home equity, a record high.
That could pay our whole deficit.
That could be almost.
We'll still be shy 1 trillion, right?
Yeah, it's like that. That's true in this like flash of the pan moment. But tomorrow it'll be $1 trillion higher.
Yeah.
God, I can't believe that.
Yeah.
Isn't that crazy?
Crazy. No, it's crazy.
What was it talking to you about? We kind of off topic or not off topic, off camera. I was talking about the consumer credit card balance. It's like 1.1 trillion.
1.2 like now.
It's like, hey, there's 32 trillion equity. Like, pay all that shit off.
Ain't gonna happen.
Not gonna happen.
No, it's crazy when I saw that.
We see people doing that. I mean,
yeah. When I saw that, my first thing I put crazy. But then what?
So that's the thing. It's kind of like it's this massive, huge number, but it means nothing until you do something.
Yeah.
So it means nothing.
But we can't do like Andy.
Cash out, refinance. You sell your house. Like it's untapped.
But let's say like me right
resource.
now, I don't need that stuff, right? I don't. Luckily, knock on wood, been paying everything. I'm good. I have all this equity in my home, but then what?
Yeah.
I got a $3,000 mortgage.
Right.
That includes my HOA, my property taxes, homeowners insurance.
Yeah.
If
in some places that's absolutely bonkers, but here that's like half price.
Exactly. So if I sell the property and I put all my proceeds into another one, my payment will still be like $7,000.
You're going to go to $6,000 to $7,000,
and I'm
like
going
right
to
away.
almost the same house.
I know. I know.
So it's crazy here in San Diego. So I'm just kind of like, what do I do? It's just I'm kind of feel like I'm landlocked. If
sure
that makes sense.
You're like situation locked, right?
Yeah.
You're kind of in a great position. You don't need to move. You don't want to move. You don't have to move.
Yeah.
So there's really nothing for you to do.
That's the other thing I'd like to share is everything we do right now because of the certain market conditions, right? We are paying more for gas. We're paying more for food. We're paying more for everything. Mm-hmm. I have, my 2 kids in college. Knock on wood. Luckily, we have no student loans. Tanya and I, we take care of that. But I tell you, it's not the easiest out there either for us. So I'm not going to paint the picture like, oh yeah, I'm there. Like, no, we're still putting that hard work. We're still trying to get everything done. There is challenges out there, but what I was going with this is just everything we do, it's got to be a need. Mm-hmm. If we want something, it's a want. We just not going to make that extra expense or sacrifice for that.
So wants can wait.
They can wait. And that's what we had to get into the transition because we've done very well for ourselves the past years.
Yeah.
2023 happened. It hit us hard.
Yeah.
24 did not start the best for us either. Mm-hmm. And so we had to become frugal and we had to change our mindset and start saying, do we really need 2 or 3 cars? No, we need 1 car.
Yeah. Yeah, you guys are, yeah.
And we're utilizing 1 car. We're figuring out, we're making the sacrifices.
Yeah.
There's times that Tanya wants to go somewhere else and I'm actually, hey, we go together or let's go to the office and then you can go and do what you have to do, you know?
Yeah.
So the best advice I can give to people to put yourself in a better position so you can have more equity and not have to use it up is, if it's not a need, don't go for it.
Yeah.
Be patient, right? Just be patient.
Well, and we're on the cusp of something similar but not so similar, which is, we have a new driver being added to our house and then another driver coming too. Yeah. But both the vehicles we have, they're paid off. And so I have older vehicles specifically because A, they're paid off. 2, they're reliable, and I'm about to put new drivers into them. So, so I don't have to get another car yet, but we're going to be in a situation where that might be more helpful for us. So right now, I may want it, but we're waiting.
Correct.
So it's not a need yet. So until it's a need, it's not. It's a not for us.
Yeah, there you go.
So on the equity side, though, like now to kind of pivot a little bit, I know that here we've been seeing a lot of people tap into their equity to get themselves out of a jam. Like, let's just be honest. People have gotten themselves into some financial jams, and the house is their little ATM machine bailing them out. Yeah. Now, I hope that their behavior changes. We talk a lot about how people can use this as their like get out of jail free card this one time, but then to change and alter some of those habits, like we're talking about, to be more frugal in one way, but be more, I don't want to just say conservative, but more proactive with your financial planning.
Why not?
Like actually think, no, because I'm not saying, I don't want this to come across like, oh, you can't go have fun and you can't eat dinner and you can't go on vacation. I'm not saying that stuff. I'm saying like build a budget. If what's caused you to be in such bad have debt is that you don't have a budget, you're not following the budget, then build a budget.
Yeah.
You can use your equity to get out of the problem. We've seen people cash out and pay off 50, 60, 70, 80, $100,000 of debt that was consumer driven.
Yeah.
And then the house comes to the rescue and saves all that. But now it creates this pad every month. Be intentional about it and be smart with it. That's my like argument.
Yeah, because this is a great investment, right? Owning your home is a great investment. I mean, one of the things that I put right here is it says right here, thanks to the run up in the housing prices, homeowners now have more than $32 trillion in home equity as the first quarter of 2024, according to the St. Louis Federal Reserve. All-time high, yes. And the next thing that I wrote right there is BlackRock. Next thing that I wrote right there.
Okay, are you going to say that is a manipulated number up?
No, I'm not saying that it's manipulated. What I'm saying and what I want to give, what I want people to understand is big corporation hedge funds companies are buying our real estate. Right?
I don't mean manipulated like they're lying about the number.
No.
I'm saying, do you think that that's been forced upwards by big corporate buyers and
because they see these numbers and they're like, well, we need to be a part of this.
Right, gobbling up stuff.
Right? So we need to gobble up this because if homeowners have 32 trillion, well, that's already a good number. How do we gobble up more real estate and they become our competitors?
Yeah.
That's why they're saying they want to make it a renter's market because we were talking about earlier of people not pulling the trigger, right? Well, when you got competition like this, you got to start making a choice. Is it a need or is it a want? I think everybody needs a home.
Yeah, everyone needs to have shelter over their head. The
That's
difference
correct.
is whether you own it or you rent it.
Yes.
And, the thing about this specific conversation is it is very dynamically different depending on where the audience member is listening to this from.
Yeah.
If you're sitting in a top 50 metro in the country, the prices are higher. The equity is usually a lot larger.
Yeah.
And you see that in time after time.
Yeah.
And then there's places where it's maybe a smaller town. There's not $100,000 of equity.
No.
There may be 30% equity, but that only translates into $50,000 or
Correct.
$60,000. So sometimes here, this $32 trillion, that can be a little bit of a misnomer too. It's like if that's coming from like New York, Miami, San Diego, Denver, Dallas, LA, San Francisco, Seattle. Okay, you're talking. Some houses here have $400,000 of equity because they have it.
Exactly.
So if you bought a house for $500,000 here and it went up 40% over the last couple of years, now all of a sudden you're sitting on a $900,000 house.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, it's not exactly that. Sorry, that's not a 40% increase.
No, I get it, but I understand
saying
that.
The point is there's this massive gap that creates a dollar amount that is extremely representative of the city you're in.
Yeah.
So that's also my cautionary tale.
Point.
Is like, be careful based on wherever you're sitting and watching this and what part of the country you're in. You have to survey for yourself. The percentage and the dollar amount are going to be quite different than some of these other areas we're talking about.
No, exactly.
So what do you want to tell people that have a lot of equity in their house? Like what's one of the things you are looking at now, seeing now that you're like, hey, take a second look at this or take a first look at this?
Yeah, no, I mean, I like it here how it says tap into your home for cash. Although homeowners are sitting on record amount of house wealth, the cost of borrowing against your home is also near the highest it's been in years, largely due to series of rate hikes, of course. And I agree. Interest rates are, it makes you have a higher payment. So it's considered higher cost, and it is going to be a lot more expensive.
That's compared to itself, though. Like if you're talking about the cost of getting a HELOC 4 years ago versus now, that makes sense. Yeah. But what about the cost of the HELOC compared to your $40,000 credit card bill at 30%?
No,
or even at 20%. Like
most definitely, which isn't a tax write-off, right?
Apples to oranges conversation.
And so what I put right there is, like they say, what goes up must come down. Mm-hmm. What do I mean by that is the rates, right? Yeah. You're going to do it right now. HELOC interest rates, I'm going to say anywhere from the high 8s, all the way to like the 13%, depending on your credit score, your loan to value.
Yeah.
And I think on the next article, we'll touch on that. But it just depends. Your credit card right now is a lot more expensive than that.
Yeah. Depending on where you survey, the average credit card rate is like, depending on what like site you're surveying, sometimes I've seen quoted between 21 and like 25% average for consumer credit cards, which is nuts. So the thing I want to caution and also encourage, though, is to be wise. And like, I'm going to go back to what I was saying a minute ago about this. Like if you're going to use your home equity because you have to get yourself out of a jam, be wise about it. Plan ahead. Make sure you can pay it back. And a lot of times you can pay it back by virtue of what you're spending out of pocket right now. So if you're spending, let's just say $1,000 between car payment, credit cards, personal loan, or whatever it is, and then you use your home equity to pay all that off, and your new payment goes up by $500, you're net 500 positive. Do something with that. Save it, invest it, apply it towards your mortgage payment, and pay that bet down using the mortgage calculator. There's a lot to do. So I'm saying if you can already afford that $1,000 out of pocket, but you can net an extra 500 by doing something with it. Do that, but be proactive. That's my last.
No, that's great.
Point.
That's great. I mean, the article comes to talk about also a home equity line of credit here. It says that the average loan interest rate is an 8.52. Again, that is based on the loan to value. Okay. What that actually means is, what's your property worth? What do you currently owe? And then if you need 80, 100,000 on the line of credit, that's going to be your loan to value based on that amount and the total value of what your appraisal will come in at. So obviously the lower loan to value and the better credit score, the lower that interest rate. Because we just had a client right now, they're going all the way to 90% loan to value, and the rate's like at 12.5. Right? Wow. Where we have another one that's only going to 70 and the rate's only 9.875.
Yeah, well, that's a huge difference.
Big difference. So and the credit score is much better. So credit's everything, guys.
Something else, and again, I just thought of this right now. Something else is if specifically if you have a VA, if you need to do the VA cash out, the VA cash out will likely come in lower than HELOC even. Right now we're doing those, Andy. Like right now we're doing a cash out refinance, up to 90% loan to value. You still could go up to 100, but the investors will hit your interest rate higher because of there's more risk. Of course.
Right? So everything, remember, with lending, it's all about risk.
Yeah, well, you're squeezing every cent out of that place at 100% loan to value. My point, though, is like, especially if you currently have a VA loan, and regardless what your first is, instead of getting a HELOC, and there might be a case, you have to run the numbers. There's a case where maybe the HELOC would win out as your solution, or the cash out might even win out. So just take a look at that.
Well, we have a client that actually has a 2.375, refinanced them now to 6.25. The interest the rate was 6.25. Why? Because their credit scores were a 619. And remember, everything's in thresholds. 620 to 639, 640 to 659, 660 to 679, etc. So it's in tiers. So they were in the lowest tier for us, and they still forfeited that. We're giving them 150, 160,000, and monthly after they pay off all their credit card debt and everything, they still have $3,000 left over. What it is now, because their payment,
they're spending $3,000 a month less.
Because they're paying off all their debt. So it's like $9,600 more or less. Don't quote me.
Crazy.
Correct.
Sorry, I don't know about this scenario.
Correct. So it's like $9,600 what they're currently paying right now with credit card and everything. After they pay that $150,000, almost $60,000, right? They're going to save it's like a little over $3,000 because their payment's going to go up to $6,000 and change.
That's nuts. So
absolutely.
So housing payment plus out of pocket payments is $9,000.
Correct.
Holy shit.
Yes, correct.
Oh
so
my God.
That's the kind of stuff that happens here in San Diego, right? In California, you're probably going to see these higher loan amounts, et cetera.
So paying it off, even if the interest rate sounds terrible, it's like almost 3 times higher than what they currently have.
Exactly.
But their out-of-pocket expense now in the $6,000.
Yeah.
Dude,
but the numbers got to make sense, right? If the numbers don't make sense, the math doesn't make sense. You're just going to leave things alone. In this case, forfeit it, right? Because I said earlier,
what else are they going to do? What's their alternative?
And the credit was not, Andy, the credit wasn't because they had any lates. They were just overextended. And remember, the credit bureaus, they have certain algorithms of what your spending is. So when we run credit, it'll tell you last month they had this debt.
Yeah.
This month they have this debt. 2 months ago they had that. It shows. So the algorithm just put the wife in a really bad situation.
Dang, man.
And so it's okay. It's a temporary thing because after 210 days of making your first payment, they're eligible to do a VA IRRRL.
The IRRRL. That's smart.
Right?
That's really smart.
We're just going to kind of play it as it is. Next time around, we're going to go do the home mortgage accelerator calculator and we're going to reinvest back into that.
Reapply that money towards the balance pay down. Dude, that's super smart.
Yes.
What a crazy example. Those are big. You're tossing around some really big numbers right now.
Yeah, that's a big. Well, that's what we're getting right now. Those $300,000-$400,000 loans are not existent here right now in San Diego.
I know. It's that
crazy.
I know they're not. But like you telling me that someone is going to net $3,000 a month better with the cash out with a higher interest rate, it kind of undercuts that entire argument that like no one should be doing cash out.
It's a no-brainer in that case, Andy. It's no-brainer. Like, I get you're emotionally attached to the lower rate, but listen, there's a bigger picture in this.
But this is that thing, man. I think this is like, this kind of goes. It's like underneath all these other headlines is like, I think people really need this right now. Because we're seeing it, and it's and I know that I lean in towards more of it being like, okay, if you put yourself in a bad financial position, you overspent, It's not always that. There are life circumstances that happen that cause you to financially have to commit to things like paying certain medical bills or paying for unexpected expenses that happen that maybe
absolutely.
And I'm gonna say it right now, even that if your insurance isn't covering certain things anymore that they used to, or there's exclusions in your policy that you had to get, so you had insurance, but now it doesn't cover the thing that happened. Like,
or you're getting the deductible because remember, like in my case, I have a $5,000 deductible if I use a medical and. Yep. This year, we didn't do so well. Tanya was, had some issues, so we had to pay that deduct.
Yeah.
Certain things like that just come up. Or your kids attend, summer school and they didn't tell you, and now you get a freaking bill for summer school.
I feel like that's a communication problem.
Yeah, like, hey, you could have gone to Southwestern College. Why are you taking at freaking San Diego State, right? It makes a difference, boy.
So send them a bill.
Yeah, you know what I mean?
Here, this is a bill for your summer school.
But no, you're absolutely, there's a lot of life things that happen.
Oh, my gosh.